Andrew Sakaguchi, how are you?
I'm doing well, Dieter Schnee.
Thank you for revealing my German class name. You and I were in German class together, in addition to going to Punahou School in the 1980s in Honolulu, Hawaii, and we graduated in '88. We were in the same class. So it's great to catch up with you. So I see a Norfolk pine behind you. Does that mean that you're currently in Hawaii?
Yeah, currently in Hawaii. Yeah. I'm here teaching at Iolani School.
Great
Yeah.
school.
It's actually a great place to work. Yeah, so I'm teaching musical theater at Iolani, and I still dance from time to time. I just did the Nutcracker with Hawaii Ballet Theater. And I danced with them this summer as well. And I perform at Diamond Head Theater. I did a few shows there during the last season, and I direct and choreograph a lot at Diamond Head Theater also. So yeah, I'm really grateful and lucky that I'm able to still kind of just do what I do. I haven't I mean, just pursue my love of theater and dance, and be able to share it with kids and the community. Yeah.
So let's go deep into the Sakaguchi family. Why don't we start with your dad and your dad's family? So where were they from? When did they arrive in Hawaii? And, tell me more about your father.
Sure. So my dad is born and raised in Hawaii, in Honolulu, Kailua. He's one of three children, and his mom is from the Big Island, one of 11 children. She was born on the Big Island, and they moved to Honolulu when she was still young, and they had a tofu factory in Mo'iliili. My grandparents married during World War II, or just before World War II. My dad was born in 43. He was the first of his siblings to go to the mainland for college. So he went to Berkeley, which is where he met my mom.
If your father was born in 43, had your family been living on the mainland, they might have been interned, right?
Totally. Yeah.
But they were not in Hawaii. Can you talk about that? Like, did your family ever talk about like that disparity between Japanese Americans on the mainland versus in Hawaii, where they're treated differently?
Well, we didn't have family at that time on the mainland, so we don't have family that went into any internment camps. I do know that we still had family in Japan at the outbreak of the war, and they kind of refused to believe at the end. At the end of the war, they refused to believe that Japan had lost. In fact, my dad has never been to Japan. Um, he's just he's and doesn't speak Japanese. My grandmother spoke you know pidgin local Japanese. So my dad was third generation.
So how did your parents meet? This must have been in the 60s, I'm guessing.
Yes. So yeah, in the like around 67, 68, they met. Yeah, so it was the height of anti-war demonstrations at Berkeley, and they were yeah, and totally the flower child hippie rebellion time of Berkeley in the 60s. At the time my mom was born, my grandfather was a student at Berkeley. My grandmother was his young bride. She was 16 when my mom was born. And so she had four children by the time she was 24, 25. And so my grandmother, my mom's mom, her dad actually was born and raised in Hawaii. He went to St. Louis. He is born in 1900, and his siblings as well. So even though my mom didn't grow up here, there was a Hawaii connection. And while she was in college, my mom came over to work at Mokuleia for a couple summers, kind of thing. But she was a student back at Berkeley when she met my dad. I think they were more aware of their being being an interracial couple when they moved back to Hawaii. My mom was, super aware of being the only haole person in the family. And this huge, again, my grandmother came from 11 brothers and sisters, and so there was this huge family of Japanese people, and then my mom was the only haole person, So she was definitely for our entire lives while they were in Hawaii. My parents are back in Berkeley now, but for my entire childhood, my mother was super aware of being a haole woman with a Japanese name.
Are there stories of your mom first meeting your dad's extended family? Did they welcome her, or were they a little bit like, oh, geez, we sent this guy to college on the mainland, he comes back with his haole wife?
I think they welcomed her, but she was still different, that I was the first grandchild. So, there was a lot of buzz around that. I just think my mom just never got super comfortable being in Hawaii.
As the first grandchild in a large family of that generation, you must have been quite a star, or you must have got quite a lot of attention from the extended family.
Yeah, I was fawned over a lot. Yeah, definitely treated well.
Well, now you're a very artistic person, and your younger brother, who I believe is a lawyer, but who I was in a band with, also is an artistic person. Were either of your parents very artistic?
Well, my parents are liberal, both very liberal, so they encouraged a lot. They kind of encouraged us to do whatever we wanted, and always just sort of didn't push us to do anything in particular, just sort of noticed what we were interested in and encouraged it. When I was 3 or 4, we moved to Maui, and my dad was working for one architectural firm, and then went to Kapalua. But at that same time, my mom was a police officer. She yeah she's one of two women who were the first women hired to the police force in Hawaii.
So she was like arresting people?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, had a gun.
Hands behind your back. That was your mom.
That was my mom. Yeah.
Where did you get your interest in performing, in music and dance? Where did that come from? What were you exposed to that made you think, I think I would be good at that, and I think I would enjoy that?
When we moved to Maui, we when we first moved there, we lived in this house in Kahului. We shared this big house with this family, and the eldest daughter in that family was doing a play at Baldwin High School, and we went to see her in this play, and I was just smitten. And she was cast in another play, and it was The King and I, and they were looking for children. I was a child in King and I was 5 years old, and I was like smitten. I wanted to do every show I could. I would make my mom take me to the library so I could listen to Broadway cast albums. In those days, you could go to the library and take records and put them on a record player and headphones and just listen to them there. And I would do that. There was like this book of 6 Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals, and I would read those scripts over and over again. So yeah, I was passionate about it from a really young age.
Do you remember a particular musical or work of music that you listened to at that age where you're especially blown away?
Well, I just loved overtures of these classic Broadway musicals. I loved that these overtures had snippets of songs from the whole show, but they were orchestrated in this really, magical way where you could, sort of, if you knew the music, you could relive the show. And but it was so grand, and this lush music.
From a very young age, you kind of decided what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that's just all I wanted to do at that time, you know. I didn't like see it as a life path, but it definitely was all I was interested in. I played dress up all the time, you know, and played with dolls and dress up and music. And so I danced around the house all the time. I made Daniel, you know, act out things with me. And
What kinds of characters would younger brother Daniel be made to play at your
oh, always supporting, always supporting me. And I was always the diva. I would have I would take blankets and tie them around my waist to make huge skirts, and put pants on my head to make wigs. And
in perhaps another type of family in that era, the parents and probably most likely the dad might have said, "Son, that's not what boys do."
yeah, pretty
So
much, I'm sure. But my parents just let me do whatever. Yeah. We built this, my parents built this house in Lahaina that had like a a big hallway, a big room, just lots of space for me to dance around and play music really loudly. I don't know any like gay men who I'm friends with now who had this experience of being allowed to dress up and dance around the house, and you know, and pursue whatever they wanted.
well, because you were this closely watched oldest grandson, did any of your extended family kind of say anything like, Andrew's a little bit off the beaten path?
So my dad's mom wasn't crazy about it. My mom's mom kind of encouraged it. She just like thought it was great that I was so theatrical. My um my my dad's mom was just kind of would shake her head and tisk 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 kind of thing, but she still let me do it. Like my grandma, she knew that I liked dolls, and she would sew dolls for me. Not as not she would sew dolls for my girl cousin that were much nicer than the ones that she would make for me, but she would still let me have what I wanted. I was spoiled, you know. So
Let's talk about when you entered Punahou.
yeah.
How old were you, and what were the circumstances that led you there?
I came to Punahou in freshman year. I went to the Waldorf school to eighth grade. I started doing shows at it was called Honolulu Community Theater at the time. It's now Diamond Head Theater. So I did several shows there, and uh, in those shows, I met Miranda Morgado, and Aaron Ostrom and Tammy Maeda, Wesley Ogata, a number of Punahou students, and so I made friends with these kids and was like, I want to go to your school.
Did you get the sense that Punahou had resources for arts and performing arts that would be an advantage to you?
I think I just no, I thought it was socially really cool. I thought it was the socially cool place to be. But I remember, you know, visiting Punahou. Miranda was my guide, and you know, she just took me around, and the everybody who I met was just so mature and cool. Cool is all I can think of.
Were there any, in addition to performance and arts, what were the topics, classes, or even teachers that you remember where it kind of sparked an intellectual breakthrough or an intellectual awakening?
I would say, well, Liz Foster for sure. I just, I that was, you know, it took, uh, I wasn't in her class until senior year, but in advanced writing. But it wasn't until then that I thought I was smart. The that I actually felt like, you know, I could be successful at something academic. I mean, I didn't do badly. In math, I took math all the way well, actually, I only took math through trig. We didn't, we didn't have to take math senior year if we didn't want to, so I didn't. Um, and history was challenging. I took APUS, and Mr. Seidenstein was amazing, but just like so smart, like so much smarter than me. And I had and then you're just also surrounded with kids who are smarter than you too. Um, but in
Is that
advanced
really how you felt?
in a lot, I felt smart in German. I felt smart in German. In
You were
fact,
smart in German. I was there.
I I actually like I a lot of the way I am as a teacher is like Frau Naylor. Like I will shout at kids and just be really like not shout at them in a mean way, but just be very theatrical. You know how she's just always like Dieter Schnee and whatever. We all had I think I scare kids with this bombastic personality that is a lot like her. And then, well, chorale, of course. Well, that was that was a great place to. That was where I really found myself at Punahou was being part of chorale, and I was lucky that I got to join chorale in 10th grade. And then, of course, I danced also at Punahou a lot. So
Just briefly on chorale, maybe you could give us a quick story. But I remember the chorale in high school was great. I mean, you guys sounded great, very good singers, very professionally put together. And then you guys went on this epic tour to New Zealand, I believe.
yeah, that's
Give us
right.
a quick sense, a real quick story about that trip and how major of an undertaking it was at that time.
I don't know how Mr. Heidel got the idea that we should go to New Zealand, but you know, it was uh, it was definitely thrilling, a thrilling prospect, and we worked so hard on 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 the material that we took there, and we took a lot of Hawaiian music as well to make it a cultural exchange. Of course, it was also a crazy party the whole time. But artistically, it was a very strong moment for us. The way we bonded as a group.
Were you among the partiers?
Absolutely. Yeah.
When we say partying, what are we talking about?
Yeah. We just drank a lot. Yeah. um,
But
yeah.
able to sing the next morning as well?
Oh yeah. Like I mean, that's the thing about Punahou. I don't know because I teach, I teach 7th through 12th graders now, and I just can't imagine that like my students now like party party the way we used to party when I was in high school. But maybe they do. I don't know. But I can't imagine it because we were like college kids in high school, I feel, even people that I meet as adults like didn't party like we did in high school. So um yeah, for better or for worse, we but it was definitely part of the adventure.
So let's talk about you socially. Right around, I don't know, age 10 to 13, people start to get feelings for other students, feelings for other kids. Did you detect that your feelings were different than others?
Yes, I definitely did. But I also like really um wanted to suppress it. I definitely did not want to um, did not want to feel those things, feel attraction to guys. I knew that it was there, but I knew that it wasn't. For all the freedom that I had growing up, I knew that was something that was going to be a struggle for me if I pursued it. Yeah.
Did you go to church? Was your family at all religious?
No, I think yeah, we didn't go to church. So yeah, it wasn't a religious thing. It was just that I think it was a social thing, just not wanting to be, a fag, be called that anyway.
Were you called that at Punahou?
You know, so I wasn't called that like to my face. But I was definitely aware of people who would just mock me from a distance, or you know uh just I don't like would call out, like cat call at me across campus, that kind of thing. um yeah.
When you arrived in ninth grade, where were you in the journey towards, I guess, being out?
Okay, well, I was nowhere near on the journey. I mean, I was not uh yeah, I was not close to being out. But it's an odd thing, because I guess uh because I was a dancer, and because I was very visible in many ways, um on stage or whatnot. People have said to me since high school, like, oh yeah, I just always thought you were just so flamboyant and so comfortable with yourself. And I did not feel that way. um I tried to have girlfriends during high school, and tried to have that lens about me, even though, and so I didn't I had so the first time I had a relationship with a guy was senior year. It was like halfway through senior year, and he was an adult. He was in his 20s. He was a student at UH. And so at that time, and it was a very short relationship, it was about 2 weeks, but it was my first sexual relationship. And um, I told my close friends about it, and they were all like, yeah, no kidding. But you know, I, I didn't not, I don't know that I thought that I was fooling anybody, but I just, I don't know. I think I repressed it so much that I just was in denial about it for a long time. Um,
Well,
yeah,
I can tell you that I also remember feeling, at least after high school was done, and I just had more awareness of you and just people, that you did seem comfortable and unashamed of who you were.
yeah, I think I was unashamed, but I just didn't like attach a sexual identity to it. I think I was just kind of not not really aware. So I was kind of being myself and not realizing that the uh what it all meant, you know.
Well, I mean, I can tell you that at the time, you mentioned, the F word, the other F word. Me and my friends were using that all the time.
Oh yeah,
Not necessarily directing it at people, but just throwing it around just for fun. And
right.
I wouldn't be surprised if I and many other people said it all the time, and you heard it and probably felt,
I
something
mean,
hostile.
it's definitely, well, it's still, it still persists that, like, oh, that's so gay is still a thing that people will just say and not really think anything of it. But actually, it does it is a microaggression.
Can you think of any, in retrospect, maybe funny or lighthearted moments from your efforts to suppress the real you that you could share with us?
Oh, um, I mean, the thing is, like, I always had these girls friends that, I mean, like Gabe Hammond, who I'm still super close to. But and we would uh there were, we we would always be, all of the girls who I was close to, we would have these like really physical interactions on campus, where, like, I would pick a girl up with her legs wrapped around me, and do lewd gyrations and what have you. um And that,
no one asked me to do that. I can do.
that's the thing is like I would get, I mean, the most beautiful girls on campus would Tino Horii and Carrie Naba would hang out with me and dance with me. Tina and I would perform these love duets at school dances and stuff, and like nobody could like figure, and I just thought like, wow, people must be just jealous, so jealous of me that I get these girls all over me, and everybody's just like, those girls are only all over you because they know that you're no threat to their to their safety. But yeah, I mean that was I didn't realize that it wasn't fooling anybody, I guess. you know um I had I also like, you talk about like people using the F word all the time. And like, like one of my closest friends, like all the time would just be like, what are you, some kind of a fag or whatever, but it wasn't like an attack, but it's definitely a pejorative. Um, and at the same time, he's one of my friends who I came out to in senior year, and he was like, yeah, dude, that's so cool, whatever, so
That's great.
there's like a lot of lightness around it. It was no big deal to any of my friends who I came out to at the time. um I wasn't sure that I was really out. I told them when I had a boyfriend, and then when we broke up, I didn't pursue any other boyfriends until after high school. But um everything that was really confusing in high school got clearer a lot later. I guess that's the summation of that thread.